I have played almost all of Hiyuki teams for several hours on the creator server, with the exception of Hiyuki Changli because I haven't quite mastered her quick swap animations yet, so that'll be in a separate video. But for today's video, I'm gonna share my thoughts on all the teams that I've played so far, including their pros and cons and damage losses. Keep in mind that the damage losses and the damage increase for every team that I'm gonna mention in this video is strictly based on Hiyuki's raw damage output in the first rotation. And it doesn't include the damage that is done by her teammates, which is something that makes a huge difference in the overall clear time by that team. And that's exactly why I've added clear times, which takes into consideration the damage done by her teammates as well. So the more damage contribution by her teammates, the better the clear times and vice versa. The damage difference for all the teams that I tested were compared to the best in slot team composition featuring Chisa, Lene, and Hiyuki. I also want to clarify an error that I made in the guide video at the teams section. I didn't add basic attack damage in her ultimate state when calculating the damage that each team does in the first rotation, so that has been fixed in this video. But rest assured that it did not affect the rankings in any way because the rank was given based on the clear time. I've also added Chisa Yinlin and Chisa Zhengzhen to the calculations as some people requested in my previous videos. Now let's start with the most underwhelming team that you could possibly play, featuring Shorekeeper Yinlin, which came at 9th place. The total damage loss per rotation was 18% compared to the best in slot team with a clear time of 88 seconds, which was expected because Yinlin provides only 25% liberation damage amplification, and there's no buffs for glacial chafe damage since this team lacks Chisa. Yinlin's off-field damage contribution is also useless in multi-wave content due to how her coordinated attacks is designed to work, which makes it harder to clear waves of enemies faster and restricts all the damage that you do to Hiyuki. But Yinlin is easily accessible if you've been playing Wuwa for a long time, so you can use her with Shorekeeper until you get your hands on Chisa or Lene or both. Coming at 8th place is Shorekeeper Zhengzhen with a damage loss of 10.5% per rotation and a clear time of 85 seconds. Zhengzhen provides 38% damage amplification, which is much higher than Yinlin, but her concerto inefficiency or her long field time is what's holding her back as one of the best sub-DPS options for Hiyuki. This can be solved to some extent if you have an R5 Mercato Gauntlet, but R1 was all that was available on the creator server, so if you have R5 Mercato, test her with Hiyuki Shorekeeper on the second floor of the current Tower of Adversity because that's where I did all of my testing, and let me know the clear time that you had. It's also worth mentioning that Zhengzhen doesn't contribute much in terms of damage even at higher sequences compared to the damage contribution of other teammates like Lene and Chisa. But she's an easily accessible unit and you can swap to her to start her basic attacks from stage 2 up to stage 5, which can help you with concerto energy regeneration and reduce her on-field time. But make R5 Mercato your top priority if you want to use her as Hiyuki's liberation damage amplifier. Coming at 7th place is Chisa Yinlin with a damage loss of 12.8% per rotation compared to the best in slot team with a clear time of 77 seconds. Yinlin buffs liberation damage and Chisa also buffs glacial chafe damage, so you pretty much get the best of both worlds in terms of buffing capabilities. But as I already mentioned in my Hiyuki guide video, Hiyuki does more liberation damage than glacial chafe damage at the moment, so Yinlin was the only one holding Hiyuki back in this team composition. But the good news is Yinlin's field time is actually pretty short if you know what you're doing. Her guide video will be in the description if you're interested in Yinlin's rotation. And Chisa's damage is good enough to help improve the entire team's damage output. Coming at 6th place is Chisa Zhengzhen with a damage loss of 6.6% per rotation compared to the best in slot team, but the clear time was 77 seconds, which is the same as the previous team where Yinlin was used as Zhengzhen's replacement. This would have been one of Hiyuki's best and most affordable teams if not for Zhengzhen's concerto inefficiency and her low damage contribution, which could have helped clear mobs much faster to help give you some decent clear times. This is what led to the same clear time as the Yinlin Chisa team, even though the damage dealt per rotation by Hiyuki only suffered a loss of 6.6%, which explains why clear times are very important when assessing the strength of any team composition in endgame modes like the Tower of Adversity, where you don't have any indicators like the point system that we have in Whimpering Waste and End State Matrix. Coming at 5th place is Showkeeper Chisa team composition with a damage loss of 16.5% compared to the Best in Slot team in the first rotation with a clear time of 68 seconds. This is where some of you guys may be confused about how we are doing less damage per rotation but getting a better clear time than the previous teams, and the reason is because of Showkeeper's incredibly short field time requirement in the subsequent rotations, and the intro from Showkeeper to Chisa grants Chisa damage amplification and attack buffs that help increase Chisa's damage output to clear waves of enemies faster for Hiyuki, which can significantly reduce your clear time. So you can see here that Chisa almost cleared the first wave of enemies before the second one appeared, which saved Hiyuki the trouble of wasting her first liberation or ultimate on the first wave of enemies, unlike the previous team compositions. But this requires you to have a decent build on Chisa, and it doesn't really matter if you don't have her signature weapon. The focus is on her damage contribution to the team, because Hiyuki still gets the 30% defense ignore buff even without Chisa's weapon, which is more important than a mere 24% damage bonus. Coming at 4th place is S1 Monnier Chisa team composition with a damage loss of just 4.4% compared to the Best in Slot team in the first rotation with a clear time of 64 seconds. The pros here are very similar to the previous team where Showkeeper was used instead of Monnier, but S1 Monnier basically put Chisa and Hiyuki's damage output on steroids. As you can see right here, Chisa demolished the first wave of enemies before Hiyuki even entered the field with an intro skill, and this helps diminish the effects of not having a liberation damage amplifier in the team like Lene. It's also worth mentioning that Monnier's off-tune build-up rate helps indirectly improve the team's overall damage output because it allows you to tune break more often compared to the other team compositions. If you don't have S1 Monnier, the performance will be quite similar to what we got in the previous team with Showkeeper at 5th place. Coming at 3rd place is the Lene Showkeeper team composition with a damage loss of just 0.3% compared to the Best in Slot team in the first rotation and a clear time of 63 seconds. You can clearly see that this team got really close to the clear time and the first rotation damage output of the Best in Slot team, even though there's no Chisa on the team, and we have Lene to thank for that. This clearly shows that Hiyuki does more liberation damage than Glacier Chafe damage because the buffs that Lene provides only affect the liberation damage done by Hiyuki, and the Chisa teams without Lene fell at the bottom of the rankings that we discussed earlier. Keep in mind that this is something that might change when we get Hiyuki's Best in Slot sub DPS, but at the moment you need Lene more than you need Chisa if you want to significantly improve Hiyuki's damage output, so don't let anybody fool you that Hiyuki is bricked without Chisa. It's also worth mentioning that Lene's damage contribution is very good, and her Tune Break boost also buffs the Tune Break physical damage and her Tune Rupture damage, as long as you Tune Break after her Forte plunge attack. Coming at 2nd place is the Best in Slot team, including Chisa and Lene, that every team was compared to with a clear time of 63 seconds and a damage loss of, well, 0%. There's really not much that I can say about this team composition other than having the best of both worlds in terms of buffing capabilities due to Hiyuki's double damage scaling of Glacier Chafe and Liberation damage, and the fact that this team can demolish enemies in multi-wave and single target mode because Lene and Chisa does damage in a much wider AoE, which can leave a fresh wave of enemies for Hiyuki to start doing damage and improve your clear times. Finally, at 1st place, we have the best team including S1 Monnier, Lene and Hiyuki that is even better than the current Best in Slot team as long as you can spend a little extra to get S1 Monnier. The damage per rotation increased by 14% compared to the Chisa Lene team with a clear time of 60 seconds. Monnier's S1 and Lene's superior buffing capabilities basically put Hiyuki's liberation damage output on steroids, even though this team lacks Chisa to buff Glacier Chafe damage and contribute to more AoE damage. Monnier's buffs is also good enough for Lene to clear out waves of enemies so that Hiyuki can focus her damage on a fresh wave of enemies to improve your clear times. But don't force yourself to get S1 Monnier if you're a really low spender in the game. You can save those pulls for Hiyuki's Best in Slot sub DPS, which will most likely get in version 3.x. And that's about it for the Hiyuki teams that I've tested so far. I intend to make separate rotation guides for Hiyuki Carlotta and Hiyuki Changli, so be sure to look forward to those videos. Our Discord link will be in the pinned comment if you're having any issues with the game or you just want a place to chill or hang out. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye bye.